we'll go back and have our marijuana discussion.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and so, here we go. A couple things. One is today we are still on for draft. We are not at a reading. Obviously, we have some decisions to make in terms of if we choose to adopt the tiered approach, the sizes of the parcels and the like, before we can even consider going to a reading. At least that's my view of the world. And it would be my hope that if we make those decisions at one meeting, or at least we have a kind of consensus expressed by 3 of 5 related to those decisions, that we could then perhaps have a kind of, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, an abiding position, a position that lasts from that meeting through to a first reading and then perhaps adoption by 3 of 5 or more. That's my hope. And so I'm also hopeful that because growing season's approaching, we can make some forward progress. It's 1:30. We've got all afternoon.
Airport at 3. Airport at 3 and airport at 5:30. So let's keep moving.
All right.
I guess the thing to do is start off with number 1 and start filling in the blank.
So in kind of assessing what size parcel might fit in that XXX value, so that under C1 we could say for premises less than that number of acres in size, there would be essentially no outdoor growing, but there would be indoor growing permitted. Then that would effectively deal with Lake Forest, Beaver, Doyle proper, Westwood, Title IX, many of our more densely populated communities. Yes, sir.
Can I ask Maury if he knows the answer on these, like Lake Forest and Westwood? What is the average lot size?
They're generally under an acre.
Under an acre.
Let's make sure we. No, this isn't going to be perfect. All right. You're going to find in some of the more densely populated communities parcels that are more than an acre. You're going to find in some communities where most of the parcels are 3, 4, 5 acres, you're going to find occasional parcels that are less than an acre. You're going to find some that are long rectangular strips, and so setbacks are going to be an interesting concept. You might find parcels that are triangular in shape. And so I don't know how to incorporate those unique issues into this, and I don't know that we need to go there necessarily. I think we make the best call that we can for parcels.
I think you need to just look at the standard size parcel. If you start trying to customize it and you have all these weird angles, if there's a long strip, I can tell you right now, they're not going to be doing anything on that parcel because it's not going to fit.
I wouldn't even put a restriction on outdoor. So look at outdoor. I think it's not the size of the parcel, it's the number of lands.
Well, you have to have some setbacks because you don't want.
Well, right. You can have setbacks, but not. This number 1 is there will be no outdoor cultivation. I'm saying you don't need that. Take it out. We don't care if it's outdoor cultivation as long as it is under 6 plants and has a certain setback.
Okay.
Did you happen to bring the deal that I thought?
Yes.
CRC?
I think I did.
Because I forgot to bring it.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're suggesting that we go down to 2 categories rather than 3.
Correct. Right. Correct. You don't have a restriction on indoor cultivation.
I had it, Mr. Chairman. I don't know what I've done with it.
I didn't realize we spoke that heavily on that.
My notes from last time.
Oh yeah, you
Maybe I was sleeping.
Well, you missed lunch, that's for sure.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Low blood sugar.
Okay. All right, so I believe you. We don't got to go through.
But you also wanted a 2,000-foot exclusion, so I understand.
I did. I don't see that anymore. I did. You guys did beat me down to 1,000.
And he kept pushing for 80 plants when 72 was the number everybody else was
agreed
using.
on.
He kept coming back.
I'm still pushing for it.
Multiple like 40.
Okay, let's. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? So I'd be saying take number one out.
No, I think number one needs to stay indoor.
We're going to give us a size.
3 acres.
No, I kind of like, for the size, I would rather keep it to a square footage, because it goes back to what we're talking, immature and immature, which we heard earlier, the mother plant versus the immature plant. If you got a, I don't know, we'll just say a 10 by 10 square foot, you could have 100 plants in there, I don't care. But whatever,
I do
they're
care.
growing.
You don't want 100 plants.
No.
Mr. Chairman, but if you're talking about, we're just talking about the inside only section right now, right?
That's it. Right now, going inside only.
Yeah,
So you want-
so what I'm saying is if you have a square footage, it doesn't matter how many plants you have within that square footage, but if it goes outside of that, I mean, granted, it's gotta be less than 99, so I guess they could have 99 plants in a 10 by 10. So, that way, we're not having to go out there and try to count plants, you can just take your tape measure, it's very
If it's
easy.
indoor, and I don't follow it. If it's indoor, it
indoor.
doesn't matter. What is 10 by 10 or 20 by 20? The whole living room and the bathroom, or just the bathroom, or
Well, that's what I'm saying, keep it in the 10.
we're not going to know. Without a search warrant, we're not going to know. So we don't even want to go there.
No, I just think that you need an acre size.
I'm happy. You're getting out of that.
So
what
we
you're trying to do.
eliminate,
But anyway, on the small ones, you're gonna eliminate the odor, you're gonna eliminate the site.
If you think we got to have indoor, let's say a quarter acre.
So the only reason that I included, and that was a liberty that I took based on our last hearing or meeting, the only reason that I included in C1 that there be no outdoors was because it seemed like the reason that we were here in the first place was because we were getting complaints from some of the more densely populated communities with almost exclusively the outdoor grows.
With 99 plants.
With
That was the problem.
With-
You look
with
over the
100
fence, you're in Lake Forest, small lots, small parcels. You look over the fence, there's 99 plants. That's what we want to get away. If it's going to be 99 plants, it's got to be 2,000 feet. If it's not going to be, it can be up to 6.
There was certainly reference to, I don't know if, I mean, the number 99 has been thrown around. It was a high volume of plants being grown on those
Basically, we
parcels.
don't want a high volume over the fence.
Right.
That's what we're trying to get away from.
if you make them indoors on these parcels that are less than 3 acres, then we don't have to deal with them. They're not
They
site
still get to
right
grow.
They still get to grow.
Well, we start forcing them in to grow. Inside, I think what we've heard is you start creating danger, public safety dangers, fire hazards, and all that.
Well, I
I don't think anybody's
want to
complaining about the guy's got 3 or 4 marijuana plants in the backyard. If the guy's got 99 of them. I think we'll get kind
I
of
think
getting away.
the old standard used to be 6 plants, so, the guy that's got 6 plants, indoors or outdoors, it's
Probably won't
not that
do.
big a deal, but when they got beyond the 6 plants outdoors, it became a problem.
So perhaps and I'll just take a stab at this, for the indoor only, maybe you want to say for parcels of 1 acre or less, you can only grow indoors and you can only have 6 plants. As a start.
Well, 6 plants per person, so if you've got.
You said,
No, I don't think you should.
No, you're not prepared. You're going to have a cooperative in this. No.
Well, what happens if you've got like a husband and a wife? Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to have 12 plants would be max, but it would be based on 6 plants.
I didn't put 12 plants max.
for each of these, kind of categories under C1, 2, and 3, it's set out in a way where you've got to define how many plants per either individual grown for themselves or primary caregiver grown for a qualified patient, or maximum number of plants per parcel.
I think you might want to phrase it per dwelling, because one of the things that I watched and listened to when I was at the city meeting the other night is that Annie gal was there, and she's got some other gal. She has a parcel out here on the east side of town, inside the city limits, but right there on the city limits, you go across the fence here into the county. But anyway, she there's basically 2 dwellings and 2 properties, and the one gal rents from her, and the city was let it, making it just X number of plants for that parcel, and it didn't provide for the fact that there could be a second dwelling on the parcel.
There's no question that we can include that level of detail.
I was gonna say, I think if you're gonna have whatever, it's 612, whatever the number you set for under an acre, under 3 acres, like being an indoor, that you try to make it per dwelling. So if you have, because pretty much every, state of California's made it now where you pretty much can have on any zoned property, like it would be the mother-in-law cottage or whatever, a second dwelling, almost by right is there now. A lot of them don't have it because they don't have room for it, but if there is a second, separate dwelling from the main dwelling that's on the property, then you would want to make those standards be per dwelling. You may have 2
So let
different
me ask
families
you,
or 2 different.
let me ask you a question.
You
then,
got
Mr.
6
Supervisor
people in
Chairman.
each dwelling,
No.
so you get
Could-
12 times
Well,
12.
but
Could
no,
you
I'm
then-
saying it's per dwelling. You cap it, like in this case, if you do 12, because that allows for two people to have 6 plants each. It's not a co-op, it's individual, because you could have a husband and a wife or whatever, and, or a significant other, however you want to do it. But they're inside a dwelling, and that dwelling, they would have 12. And if there's on the same parcel, a rental unit that's there, then there could be another couple living in that dwelling, and so they should have.
Let's say
You might
that
have
I
24 plants in one little tiny group.
Let's say that I effectively deal with that in a change of language in the resolution. Mr. Supervisor Chapman, would you support or could you see your way clear to supporting a tier, essentially, that on the lower size parcels, whatever lower size is defined as only being indoor grow?
Oh, yeah. I think the smaller the parcels, you have to push it inside. I mean, and they're going to say, oh, we got to have the light and stuff. Okay, that's fine if you want. You need to go find a parcel that's big enough that allows you to have the light outside.
What size parcel do you think ought to be, I'm just, for discussion's sake, trying to...
Well,
see if I
as
can
an
build
example, I'll use
consensus.
my place right down the street. It's a half block away. It's a corner lot. Okay, it's 50 by 100. It's basically a quarter acre. Okay, to have an outdoor grow on that property, I think is problematic. I would say that would be something or my neighbor next to me, if he decided to have, he's got a small yard, he's got a backyard maybe as big as this room. And if that turned into an outdoor grow, it's going to create problems when you have that kind of concentration of people living together. I don't care.
Let me put it a different way then.
That's
And
what the problem is
hopefully
at Lake
getting
Forest.
to the root of the discussion, and that is keeping in mind Lake Forest or Westwood or Beaver proper or Doyle proper or Title IX or the
James
like.
Grove downtown.
All of
Downtown.
those. At what point in size of acreage could you reasonably see them permitting someone to grow outdoors? Just, again, trying to precipitate discussion here.
I'd be saying it probably starting at about, if it's not inside one of those kind of town boundaries, it doesn't matter what, you could have a 10-acre parcel in the middle of a town area, but if there's close structures at hand, I think you need to, shut it down. But I would say maybe like 3 acres.
Okay.
Two would be getting kind of small, but I mean.
Is there anybody else that can support 3 acres as the point
As
that
a
you
threshold, I think that's
move from,
indoor to outdoor.
no indoor, or excuse me, no outdoor growing, but indoor growing being permissible, to then transition to another tier or step where you could then permit outdoor growing as well?
I think
Yeah.
that's awful large.
3 acres is very large. 2 acres. 2 acres might be
An acre.
doable.
An acre.
Well, what's your setback, Bob, on an acre on the outside?
You had it once, you talked about it last time.
208, if you have a 1 acre parcel that, just for point of reference, if you have a 1 acre parcel that is exactly square, one side equals 208 feet. Yeah.
I think we talked about 20-foot setback.
That's what we talked
Well,
about before.
If you had a 1 acre parcel, 20-foot setback, you got room to grow.
With a fence.
Yeah, with the
And
fence.
you're only talking about like 12 plants anyway. You're not talking
Right,
about
exactly.
trying to farm.
That'd be a maximum of 12 plants. It'd be
So-
1/2, it'd
so-
be,
if I understand this right,
What are the parcels up in like Lake Forest?
well,
Much smaller than an acre.
yeah. because they're pretty small.
There you go again. At least it's not.
More, you know the size of the lots of lake forests?
They're generally under an acre.
Under there.
Generally under an acre, okay.
What
And
about
again, there's gonna be exceptions.
Fine, under an acre.
What about like Westwood?
Under an acre.
Under an acre.
I mean, that's generally. There's oddballs
Generally,
everywhere.
most of them, you look, they're pretty small.
Yeah.
Under an acre. Let's use an acre and 12 plants, move on.
Well, no, let's make sure we understand what we're talking about.
What page are you on?
Well, I'm on page 4 of the draft ordinance under C1, and that would be this premises less than 1 acre in size. Is that something, again, I want to try and progress through this in somewhat of an orderly fashion,
I can settle for 1 acre, I'd like to see.
thank you, I appreciate your willingness to attempt to build consensus, thank you.
Yeah, I can probably do it. I don't, anything less than an acre, I'd be totally opposed.
Okay.
Acre and 12 plants.
No, let's talk about the number of plants. That's a separate issue, but it's part of the same issue. But 1 acre, and then can we talk about? Let's talk about the number of plants on that 1 acre. Remember that what we're talking about is we're talking about the number of plants that an individual person can grow for themselves if they have a recommendation. Even if their recommendation says 99 plants, you are essentially through an ordinance saying no, but that's capped at what number? 12 per person?
12
But it becomes important.
Per parcel.
12 for the parcel.
Okay. So,
That's what
total of 12 for the parcel. Okay.
And that's being liberal because you're envisioning 2 people on that 1 acre, 6 plants each. But if there's only 1 person there, he's got 12 plants. If there's 5 people there, they're going to have to share the 12 plants.
So, we don't need to say then 6 plants per person
No.
with a maximum of 1 patient or 2 patients or whatever for a maximum. Just 12 plants total.
Correct.
Is that something that I think I could get buy-in from at least 3?
What about under an acre?
That's what we're talking about.
Because
We're talking about, let's make sure, we're talking about under an acre, we're talking about indoor only,
Right. Got it.
okay? Indoor only, and we're talking about maximum number of plants. It could be that there are 6 patients that are supplied by that 12 plants. I don't, 2 plants per, for a
You
total
know,
of
if somebody's
12.
going to be a caregiver and provide plants for others, they're going to have to find something other than a 1 acre lot to do it on. Period. I mean, if there's no place where they could go in Lassen County if you know there's a problem. The problem is there's a lot of land in Lassen County.
Okay, so 1 acre or less is how I would define that. Maximum number of plants, 12. Total per parcel.
I think you got a 5-vote consensus.
I think I do. Now, for premises of, what I'm going to say is under the number 1, for premises less than 1 acre in size, all right, that's less than the number 1. But for number 2, what I would say is for premises of 1 acre up to, how many acres? What's the next step?
10 acres, 10.
you're on number 2 now?
Yes, sir.
So all,
Yeah, he
The
said
last-
make it 11.
everything on number 1 after no more than 12 plants, it's going to be taken out.
Yeah, I'll make it work with what you're telling me now.
You're
I'll change the
talking about
language to make
primary
it work.
caregivers and everything on that.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, take all that.
Oh,
I'll make it work with what you're telling me.
okay,
So,
let's go
so
on
1
to
acre to 11 acres, and Aaron made that as a, because you've got 1 acre already, so you keep it in multiples of 10. So,
And so from, again, the question is if step 2, essentially tier number 2, was 1 acre to 11 acres, up to and including 11 acres, is that something I could get by on?
Yeah.
yeah. Keep it simple.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you good with that?
Yeah, I can live with that.
Can you live with that today?
Today I can.
Can you live with that next week when we vote on it?
Not so sure.
That's my question.
Let's wait till I get through 3. Let's wait till I get through 3.
Remember,
I can handle that on
I'm
there.
trying to promote a conversation that sticks.
Okay.
So now number 2 is going to be indoor or outdoor.
Yes, sir.
They can pick or choose.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
What's the plant limit?
Well, we're going to get to that.
We haven't got there yet,
Let's
Ted.
stick with what we got.
Ted, you're thinking faster than us.
So,
You really have to agree with yourself. You got to agree with 5 of each other.
if you stick around, it'll be more than that.
Keep going, Burns. You're moving right along. Keep
All
going.
right, so number 2, the second tier would be from parcels of 1 acre to 11 acres. How many plants are we talking about? Now, this contemplates outdoor.
Let's talk about setbacks in the
Okay.
Let's do
All
that
right.
first. 'cause that's-
Remembering that 1 acre, if it's perfectly square, is 208 feet along one side. Now, if you create a setback that drives the outdoor, and the setback really only relates to the outdoor cultivation.
Right.
Okay? You don't have a setback that relates to the indoor cultivation, because if it's in your house, presumably, if it's a lawfully constructed structure, it's already abiding by the setback requirement.
That doesn't always happen in Lassen County.
Well, certainly not on West Canyon. So, that's another conversation.
You've got fence heights and you've got distance from the fence to the grow site.
Yes.
So you're talking about 6-foot fence,
20-foot setback.
20-foot setbacks. Are we going to have to be within
So many of a dwelling?
a dwelling? Yes.
Your prerogative.
That's the other, and I think the factor, I don't know if it's the city or somewhere it come from, but was 50 feet from a dwelling. So you could have, 20 feet setback on your property, 20-foot setback on the neighbor's property, but if the house is sitting right on the neighbor's, now you're 40 feet away. So they would have to make sure, so that could be, if the dwelling on the neighbor is such as it relates to your property boundary, it could impact your so-called grow zone within the setback, and I think we need to keep that in mind.
What about the prospect, and maybe I missed this in your discussion, what about the prospect of, my guess is, because I've gone by on my way home and I can see one place where the guy grows, and he's got a fence, and the fence is essentially attached to the building that he lives in. And there's, I think, an extra added security thing there. So what if the setback, if there was a component in there that said minimum setback from a dwelling, but not the dwelling that's on the premises where the marijuana is being grown, but
A dwelling of an
a
adjoining
neighboring
parcel.
dwelling.
Adjoining of an-
My guess is that some folks that want to cultivate close to their structure so they can provide some level of security if they feel like somebody ripping them off, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Well,
So, that's a guess.
A person's got to grow on their property. If it's right out their back door, that's their business. But when it's out their neighbor's back door, it's now the neighbor's business,
Yes.
and that's what we're trying to insulate. So
Okay.
I think that, the larger the parcel, the chances are you're going to have a neighbor's dwelling. A 1 acre parcel you might run into, or a 2 acre parcel you might run into an impact there. But I think the larger that parcel gets, the less that's going to be a reality.
So if I understand it right, the minimum code setback is 30 feet to a structure, not 20, but 30. And so if you go 30 in from side, if it's a side setback, front or back setback of 30 feet to a structure, is that side, front and back setback minimum? 30 feet? Okay.
That's the CAL FIRE setback.
Okay.
What is the Cal Fire setback?
30 foot, 30 foot all the way around. Question is that what you want to do
For an
for?
acre parcel, you're going to kind of limit the grow size, but you're not going to have, you're still going to have plenty, if you have a perfectly square parcel, you're still going to have plenty of room to grow stuff.
So,
It can be 20 or 30, I don't care. I think we talked 20 last time.
yeah, I don't know, and
I would say leave it 20, but have a caveat in there
That's
that
uniform
if,
with building
yeah,
code.
that if, the caveat being is that if an adjoining parcel has a dwelling that would put it within 50 feet of that grow area, then it's going to impact just that small part of the grow area. So you want to keep it at least 50 feet from any adjoining dwelling.
so do I have any consensus on this?
That works.
And what is that?
Leave
Okay,
it
so let's,
20 foot back, but not within 50 foot of an adjoining parcel dwelling.
so 20 foot setback from property lines
Yeah.
and 50 foot
From an adjoining dwelling.
from any neighboring residence.
Adjoining parcel dwelling.
Okay. Now, plant count.
12. Really, the only difference between 1 and 2 is 1, you can only grow indoors.
Correct.
2, if you do these things, you
Yes.
can go outdoors.
Correct.
So I would still keep it at 12. If you have more than 12, you better go to.
So it doesn't matter how many patients or how many consumers, 12 plants total per parcel.
This should be for you and one other.
If you're gonna get into more of a commercial provider type of a mode where you're doing it as a caregiver and stuff, you're gonna have to go to a bigger parcel.
So the deal is that if you express this in terms of a maximum number of plants per parcel, and don't say anything about how many recommendations or whether, how many patients, that the person that's growing still has to legitimize that if they're challenged by law enforcement or whomever. They still have to support that they have a legal right to grow the number of plants that they're growing based on the recommendations that they possess, whether for themselves or for themselves and they're providing primary caregiver services to a patient. They still have to support the number they're growing. So I think it's perfectly acceptable for you to simply express it in terms of maximum number of plants per parcel indoors or outdoors.
What I would throw out as an alternative, and I could live with box 12, but chances are when you get into a larger parcel, starting at above an acre and stuff, you more than likely could have a second dwelling. You could more than have more people living on a site like that. So I would suggest maybe moving the second tier up, make it 18 plants being the max rather than 12, giving one, basically incorporate one additional body as being the max.
And I think we need to clarify in both 1 and 2 that we're talking about parcel, because if you read it literally, and I didn't read it this way until I just looked at it now, but we say each person who resides on this
Bob's
parcel.
going to take all that out.
So,
Yeah, I think.
Yes, yes.
We're going to gut all that
Yes.
and just
Okay.
make it be.
Number of plants per premises, period.
Really, the only difference between 1 and 2 in my mind is
Indoors
1,
versus-
if you're under an acre, you can't go outdoors.
Correct.
2, if you're over an acre,
You can do in or
you
out.
can do in or out.
Yep, that's correct.
Same number of plants.
Same number of plants.
Okay, well, if that's, I can accept that, but I was going to say is I
If you
did.
accept it, stop right there.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
How's the left side of the board feel?
I'm good. Actually, we're the right side.
We're the right side.
Yes,
You're the left side.
You guys are the lefties over
it
there.
does. It depends on the issue.
Okay,
I'm
number
gonna get in
3.
trouble.
Hey, stop it.
Okay.
Before we go on, number 2, we talked about a fence.
Yes.
Inside.
Yes, you did.
No, are we going to leave that at 6 feet? Or
That's where I left it. And the reason I left it was because if I recall the answer from Mr. Anderson, yes, there are, the opportunity exists for 7-foot fences in some areas, but not in all.
7 foot is the new rule that doesn't require a building permit. Now, there are zones, and likely not with this acreage, that have setbacks in front yards for smaller fences. It's generally in the R zones, but this acreage generally will not be zoned R.
Okay. Can you interpret that for me, please?
What did you say, Maury?
So,
You could say a 7-foot fence is required.
okay.
And that does not mean that in areas that are zoned differently that require a shorter fence in the front yard that they'll be immune from that. They'll still have to follow that. So they'll have to look at case by case. But 7 foot is the rule now for a fence that doesn't require a building permit.
Unless there's a requirement that makes it less, other than 7 foot.
Exactly.
I like that idea, make 7 foot your standard, and then, but if there's a rule on a particular parcel, whatever the setting, because in town here, you can have a 6 foot or 8 foot fence in the backyard, but on the front
Exactly.
side, you have to be like 3 feet or 4 feet.
In the front setback.
In the front setback.
Right. And that probably will not occur very often on 1 acre parcels to 11 acres, but it could. And that would be up to them to go and find out what the rules are. I think that makes sense.
I mean, I hate to make you guys get a building permit to build a fence.
Well, up to 7 foot doesn't require one.
It doesn't
6
require.
foot 9.
Yeah, one other fence issue is that there are areas of the county in this parcel configuration size where either by virtue of a parcel map or some other CCNR, you're limited to what kind of fence you can build, even gotta have the critters going.
I would say you just, you word it
And
to
so-
be, 7 foot be your standard, except otherwise provided by law. So if a CCR or something else,
Well, we don't enforce CCNRs, that's one thing. And then there's another thing, it could be site distance areas that aren't a part of the zoning per se, but you can't have a 7-foot fence going into a triangular turn. So, there are, I think the way you caveat it is, unless there's a reason that you can't have it.
Then you said it. Okay.